Hello everybody, and welcome to my Werewolf companion build video. This is going to be the first variation that I have made. I finally got the items together, and so far I am decently happy with it. There might be some tweaks I end up making to it, but I think this is a really good starting point for a werewolf build that's actually going to perform as a companion werewolf build, higher up. So, let's go ahead and hop into the gear. First off, we have Aspect of Might. This is going to give you a ton of damage reduction. So that's the main thing. Your Storm Strike is now going to give you like 45% damage reduction with you wearing this. Solid defensive. You're not going to have a whole lot of... This is an up-close and personal build, but I was not really having too many issues surviving whenever I was just doing tier 3 dungeons. So, Mad Wolf's Glee. You don't necessarily need this, but this is going to be the best chest piece that you can get for this because it gives you plus 2 ranks to your werewolf skills, and it gives you physical, poison, damage reduction from poisoned enemies, and movement speed. Next, we have your wolf companions and our werewolf companions, and they can spread rabies. Now I moved this off of the weapon. The reason why I moved this off of the weapon is because it's an additive bonus, and that 100% does nowhere near as much as the new legendary that I have on there. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Because this is additive, it really diminishes the power. If they just did one thing to this, and they just changed this to be a multiplicative bonus, your werewolf companions would be so good. Like, they would be so good. But they're still good now, just they could be better. It could be more wolf-focused if they just changed that one thing about that. Next, Storm's Companion. I love this item. Oh my god, I am so happy about this item. This item fixes so much of the issues that I have had with the wolves. Oh my gosh. Okay, so you don't have to have this, but you're going to notice a pretty big difference. So first off, companion skill damage, companion movement speed, potion drop rate, plus 2 ranks of wolves. All things you want. Gives you the Storm Howl ability, and your werewolves now deal lightning damage, so they actually deal, I've noticed, quite a bit more damage in terms of how much they do, because since they're doing lightning damage now, it's like it bypasses their resistances a little bit better. So I've noticed that there's been an increase in damage there. Nothing super crazy. It's not going to make, oh man, your companions are broken or something like that, but it's good. And then the Storm Howl ability. This changes so you know how they jump to targets? They don't do that anymore. Now they do a teleport. They blink to the target. So there's no more of them getting stuck in air when you use the active and then they get CC'd in midair. It's just, they just will immediately teleport to the target and it does a burst of damage. It's pretty nice, actually. Next, we're going to do the Eluding Archon Greaves. Becoming injured while crowd control grants you unstoppable for 4 seconds. This just helps you from being in crowd control, like CC locked. The only reason why I have this in here. And then, now, so, for the new legendary that I have been putting on my weapon, Ritual of our Staff of the Blurred Beast. While dashing, Shred seeks out nearby poisoned enemies, instantly dealing 162% of the poisoning damage to them. This does not consume the poison, which is pretty cool. But, and it also increases the amount of poisoning damage by 62%. So this is actually a pretty solid bonus. This is going to end up coming out to be a higher bonus than what this would be. So we're kind of moving from a more wolves focused. I do have like maxed out wolves and stuff like that, but adding this into the build adds a lot of damage because it helps add more of a poison creeper focus, and poison creepers a much better ability in general than wolves are, unfortunately, right now. Okay, now we go to Amulet of the Stampede. Gain 1 additional companion. In addition, your companion skills deal 29% bonus damage. Now, this is a multiplicative multiplier, so this is pretty solid to have on the amulet. It's just going to make your companion skills do more damage, since we are using 2 companion skills, and this is a companion build, it makes sense. However, if you want to take this off and you want to do more of like a shred focus build, or if you want defense, you could actually replace this with like, just damage reduction and werewolf form and stuff like that. It's kind of up to you. Next, Edgemaster's Band. Skills deal up to 18% increased damage based on your variable primary resource when cast. So, whenever you use your actives, ideally, you want to do it when you're at full resource, and then you want to shred, because the whole idea of this build, too, is you put your poisons on them with, you put the rabies with the wolves, you put the poison creeper on them, you put your shred poison on them. If you had Tempest Roar, it would actually add a poison effect to Storm Strike as well. So that's why I think that's a little bit better. But Yeah, so and then you use this, and then it procs the Blurred Beast, and you just do a burst of damage to them. It's pretty cool. It's a little bit mechanical, but it's pretty sweet. Then we have Shepherd's Ring. Core skills deal an additional 6.5% damage for each active companion. Now, this is something that this is probably the biggest point where I'm like, I don't know if I want this, but this is what I'm using for now. And I use it in conjunction with Ravens because, 4 times 6.5, that's a decent amount of damage, right? So what is it, like 24% extra damage to your core skills, and this is a multiplicative bonus. You can see it has the X next to it, so it is going to make your shred deal a decent amount of damage, but it does require that you run Ravens to really maximize it, because you got 4 Ravens here, you got 3 Wolf Companions here, and then you got a Poison Creeper here, but I don't know if this counts towards it, so it might just be 7, right? So, 7 times 6.5 is how much you're getting. That's like in line with the whole like core skills deal X amount of damage with Fortified Legendary, so that's actually pretty solid, all things considered. Okay, let's go ahead and get into the abilities. Spirit Boons. Let's do that real quick. So you want Wariness, you want 10% max life, you want 5% crit, you want Pack Leader, just so you can have a chance to reset your cooldowns of your companion skills, and you want Masochistic. Critical strikes or shape-shifting skills heal you for 3% of your max life. We don't run an ultimate, so this isn't necessary. Don't really need this. Don't really need this either, so this is most likely just going to be the best option, and it gives you some nice defense. So why the heck not? Alright, abilities. So, Storm Strike, Enhanced Storm Strike, Fierce Storm Strike gives you vulnerable and immobilized to everything. Then you want to go Shred, Enhanced Shred, Primal Shred. You want to go Blood Howl, Enhanced Blood Howl, Innate Blood Howl, and actually, you could go the Poison if you wanted, because it would have a poisoning effect. However, you have to remember it's the first hit of dash that procs the poison, so it's a lot harder to get that poison to actually add up in there. Oh, you also want Predatory Instinct for 6% increased crit. Blood Howl is just a really good survivability cooldown, and it resets on kills, so you're going to be using this a decent amount, and it fits in with the werewolf theme. It also generates spirit. You can also use the attack speed one if you want a little bit more damage as well. Alright, then we got wolves. We got Enhanced Wolfpack, and we got Brutal Wolfpack. So they get 20% attack speed when you crit, 20% increased damage to immobilize, stun, slowed, or poisoned enemies, and they proc this themselves because they spread rabies. We got Poison Creeper. We got Enhanced Poison Creeper and Ferocious Poison Creeper. Also, take Ancestral Fortitude and Vigilance. So whenever you use this, you're going to get a 15% damage reduction buff for 6 seconds. And because you're going to be using this so much when you're going through dungeons, you're going to notice Vigilance is pretty sweet. Anyway, then you went the active poisoning duration is increased by 3 seconds, and the reason for that is because we're trying to play towards increasing the poison damage of this build. So we want to focus on that. Then take 1 point to Ravens, Enhanced Ravens, Brutal Ravens. We're only taking this because we're on Shepherd's Ring. Ravens really is just not that great of a companion ability. So I'm not. Yeah, if you wanted to, you could drop Shepherd's Ring and Ravens entirely and just do something else entirely. Like you could put Debilitating Roar in here if you wanted to put more damage in. You could just say, screw it, who cares about the ability, and get some extra shred damage. But yeah, take Call of the Wild because this is a multiplicative bonus here, so it's pretty good. Then come down here, we have Rabies, we have Enhanced Rabies, and Natural Rabies. This makes your rabies spread faster. And you're not actually going to put this on your bar. You could. So like what you could do is you could take this off, and then you could put it in like here, get a couple points into that for more shred damage, and then just put rabies on your bar if you wanted to, because then you'd be even more werewolf. So that is an option. It's not what I do. I just have this maxed out, so it'll do more damage, add more poison to them, and then make the rabies spread faster. So then we want Neurotoxin, we want Toxic Claws. This is going to make your werewolf skills deal 23% of their base damage poisoning damage. Envenom, poisoned enemies take 30% additional critical strike damage. Then we're going to come down here. We're going to put some Quick Shift in here. When shape-shifting skill transforms you into a different form, it deals 20% increased damage. So if you make sure that you Storm Strike in order to go human form, and then you Shred, and then you proc the Quick Shift. However, if you do get Tempest Roar, I think the play that you would have to do is you'd either have to wait for one of these abilities to be up in order to turn into a human to use this, or you can take these points out and put them up here into wild impulses. Okay. Then we want Lupine Ferocity. Every 6 werewolf skill hit critically strikes and deals 60% increased damage. Other options would be Ursine Strength. Just take a flat 30% damage increase all the time. I like Lupine Ferocity. I think, getting a guaranteed crit is pretty nice. And if you do get Tempest Roar and that turns your Storm Strike into a werewolf ability, it makes you proc this even more, since your Generator and your Shred are both considered werewolf abilities. So it really is nice. Because the one thing I will say about this build is it has a ton of room to grow. Right? This is just I have such a basic version put together, and there's things like so much Paragon and stuff that you can put in here. Not only that, I'm only level 65. We're talking almost like 130, 140 item power left on the table, on top of Ancestrals. I mean, once you start seeing those Ancestrals from World Tier 4, you're going to be like, wow, because they are on a whole nother level. Like, the stat affix that drops, like, there's just so much. Like, these items I have here just don't even compare to what you're going to be able to get. Like, you're going to be able to stack more crit just innately on your items, so it'll make it to where your reset cooldown. Like this, I'm pretty confident that this build will definitely grow into Tier 4 eventually, even if it doesn't start out with a base power as high as the other ones. Once you get all the pieces of Exodia together, I do think this is going to be a pretty good build. Yeah, on top of like getting all your stats aligned and stuff like that. Okay, but anyway, so that's it for the skills. Let's go ahead and let's go do a dungeon. We'll do a dungeon on World Tier 3 just to show you how it works. Alrighty, so first thing you're going to notice, Storm's Companion has turned my werewolves into like electric werewolf, so if looks add damage, this is definitely going to be a high damage build. So the idea here is you're going to want to use your Poison Creeper on as many things as you can, and then you're going to want to use your Poison Creeper, and then you're going to want to wait for your wolves to get rabies spread around, and then you're going to want to shred, and that should just kind of burst them at that point. Pretty simple. Now, you're going to notice that the wolves aren't really ever jumping, and that's because their new ability, Stormhowl, has turned it into a teleport, which is amazing, and it looks like it also does a little bit of an AoE splash damage. Now, I noticed that whenever I used it in the middle of groups, it looked like it was actually doing AoE damage as well, so that's like super awesome. And keep in mind, this is World Tier 3. I had no problems clearing this dungeon, no survivability issues or anything. And I really didn't have an insane amount of Paragon. I didn't have any of the passives opened up for it. I think I had the Wilds glyph in there, so it had like 20% increased companion damage, but I didn't get the passive, and the passive is huge. It's an 80% multiplicative buff to the passive portion of the wolves. So, like I said, there's so much upward mobility. That's why I'm so happy about this, is I think this is going to be pretty solid. And with that Stormhowl ability seeming to turn things into an AoE, that gives kind of an interesting angle there for increasing wolf damage. So you can try to like burst packs with that active if there's ways to increase that. One thing I will say, so I was using Storm Strike here. You could use Claw if you wanted to. I just am a hound for, I guess, damage reduction. Like, I love damage reduction, so I decided to go for that. But you could use Claw here, and I actually would be doing more damage if I use Claw, because I would just be getting more poison on the target. Not to mention I'd be proccing my Keystone passive faster. Like, I would say that from a damage perspective, if you don't have Tempest Roar, you probably want to be using Claw, but once you get Tempest Roar and your Storm Strike becomes a werewolf ability, then all of a sudden you're putting, AoE poison on everything with Storm Strike, so that's really good. Yeah. So, let's see here. The bossing damage is also pretty decent, especially once you get the passives, because I tested it out. I intentionally turned off the passive damage just because I was curious to see how much of a difference that makes. The main difference is your boss damage when you don't have the passive on the Wilds glyph. However, you're still going to kill things pretty decently quick. The bossing damage on this is pretty good compared to other builds. I'd honestly almost go as far to say that I can tell that if I had like the same amount of gear and stuff that I had for the pulverized build, this would probably outperform it on the boss. And keep in mind too, when it comes to gear and stuff like that, you know, I'm like, there's so many insane passives you can get on gear once you get to ancestral items. Like, it is ridiculous. Like, if you go to any like ancestral website that just kind of shows you the stat rolls on the items, they're just wild. So there is just so much upper mobility on this. I'm talking like you got things like plus ranks to toxic claws, like 4 ranks to toxic claws on your amulet. You got plus ranks to all companion skills, like a +3 or something to all companion skills you can get on the amulet. There's just so much there's so much left on the table here. On top of, I didn't have any legendary nodes active in my Paragon either for this. Again, because I was trying to test how does this work at a base level before you have Paragon and all that stuff, and I would say it's performing pretty solid. So, alright, well, that's going to do it. Thanks for watching. I hope this helps. Like, subscribe if you want to see more. It helps me out a ton. Trying to get to 1,000, and I'll see you guys next time.